Hi everyone, it's Dr. Jenny. I it's a Sunday. I tend to work on Sundays, mostly because it's related to masculine energy, and I feel like I get more stuff done on a Sunday than I do on a Friday. So I wanted to make this video because I saw on a couple of Instagram accounts related to other psychologists, and then my clients have been coming in to talk a lot about intimacy and dating, again, because they're young. And I wanted to clarify a few things about attachment theory. And it's not something that I have been doing the work with for quite some time because I've been kind of more in the spiritual plane of existence of relationships. But it's coming back, and it's coming back and being misunderstood, as it always has been misunderstood. And it's now being downplayed as something that may not be important because of the interest in polyamorous relationships and alternative relationship structures. And I have to say that as someone who was trained scientifically before I went on a spiritual journey and trained with the best in the field, right? So my scientific training comes from the people who basically took the reins from the original people for decades and went and healed entire countries with their research, healed babies, healed relationships. They did the work at such a high level, they changed entire countries. So I have a great deal of respect for my original science background, and I think it's really, really freaking important to begin to understand that all this knowledge that many of us have been working with in my field for the past 20 years is now being twisted and misunderstood by either coaches or people from the wellness industry that don't have the science background and did not do the research, have not read the research, and have not trained at a high enough level to truly understand what it is that they're talking about. So attachment theory is not necessarily just a theory about two people. Attachment theory was created out of the shit show of World War II when babies were abandoned because their parents were killed. We learned during that time how much relationships became important because infants were becoming depressed without their primary caregiver. That's the origin of attachment theory. It is brain-based. It is all about understanding at that time the importance of having a human being around, because psychology prior to that time did not think that a parent was important. Right? Psychology prior to that time was not brain-based, and it was medical and science. But the predominant psychological theories at that time were very much about just, it's all about you on the inside. The outside world doesn't matter. Your relationships don't affect who you are. And the child psychology community that grew out of the work of Freud's daughter, Anna, began to question all of that post-World War II when they had all of these abandoned children, orphans, and they started observing the levels of depression, the levels of brain damage, and just the craziness that happened cleaning up the horrible things that everyone had gone through at that time. So that's the foundation of the research. It's about brain development. So what we've learned about brain development is that a child only needs one human being. It does not need to be a biological parent, but needs one human being who is able to emotionally attune. It is a right brain to right brain connection, can emotionally attune, be intuitive enough to be able to pick up on their emotional cues, to respond appropriately, and create a safe environment. If a child has that, then they become what we call securely attached. They are able to have social relationships. They're able to have better friendships. We see them in a little bit of a healthier way as they go into preschool and beyond. It is a gift, right? It is a gift when a child receives that kind of loving attention and support from an adult. But it does not need to be a biological parent. So because it only takes one adult to help a baby out, attachment theory grew out of this idea of the research of the dyad, right? It's also much easier for research to study a dyad. Most of the attachment research has been definitely about the cognitive processing of relationships. It's been about trauma in relationships. Relational trauma is usually dyadic. So because the research has been dyadic, we now assume that attachment theory doesn't apply to other relationship dynamics, except it's not true. The attachment theory research is so super clear on the idea and concept of relationship specificity, meaning that just because you have a good, secure relationship with one parent does not mean the relationship with someone else is going to be the same. That concept very much easily can replicate in adult relationships. And if we're going to talk about polyamorous relationships or other kind of relationship specificities, or arrangements, then we're really talking about the same thing. We're talking about the same thing as, does this baby and this adult, what kind of relationship do they have? In a group setting, it's more of what kind of relationship is going on between myself and all of these other people, because each relationship is specific. It's not going to be the same all the way around. That is one important point about attachment theory. The other important point is that attachment theory research is very clear that it's not just about safety and security. It's also about exploration. So when a child feels safe and secure with that one adult, you will see them go out in the world and be able to explore, have other social relationships, and not struggle quite as much, right? So these are just dynamics that we can see in little kids. It's the same thing in adulthood. If we're having trouble exploring something that might be more in alignment with who we are, we might have some relational trauma that needs to be cleaned up. And if it's not in this lifetime with our current parents, mother or father wound, it might be in a past lifetime, right? Most of us right now have so much relational trauma work to do because it's this lifetime and last lifetime. We've added the spiritual component, that it seems completely ridiculous to think that we're going to have safe and secure relationships all the way around. It is not going to be possible for most of us, especially if we're on the spiritual path, because of the concept of relational specificity. At the end of the day, attachment theory was a way and a system and a scientific study of categorizing relationships so that we can come up with targeted interventions to help little ones not go through trauma that their parents had been through. Okay, so I'm going to say that again. Attachment theory wasn't about getting your needs met as an adult, as much as it was a prevention for children to not have to go through the shit show and repeat the trauma that their parents had already been through. So most of the attachment research that had been conducted for decades was turned into programs that helped the community, turned into programs that helped entire countries. So I'm making this video just to emphasize that point. We're very interested in sex and relationships, especially in the United States. But the science and the research always went beyond an individual's happiness to go and change the world for the next generation. So I'm going to ask you in this video, are you dedicated to your love life so much that you're willing to walk the path and understand all of this science, all of the spirituality, and all the things that go along with understanding what real love is? Mind, body, soul. Are you on that path so much that you're willing to help contribute to the changing of a new world? Because if you're not, you don't understand this research and the reason why it's been important. This was the divine feminine contribution from the science side that gets misinterpreted and misrepresented and misunderstood all the time because we are simply trying to get our individual needs met. But the level of respect for the people who have committed their lives to doing this research, I have so much of it because it's this research that literally has changed systems and structures all over the world. So I'm going to let you sit and contemplate that. Now you have an opportunity And to learn this stuff, not just so that you can be happy in your own little bubble, but because healing this is supposed to help the world become a better place. Maybe not for us, but for the next generation. That has always been the motivation of the people who've done this work. We've lost sight of that. And now we're trying to pull that sacredness of that research into, just systems and, alternative relationship stuff and talking about sex simply because it interests us. But we've lost sight of the sacredness and importance of the reason why that research was done in the first place. And so there needs to be a realignment. If we're going to pull this research and add to it so that we better understand alternative or non-traditional relationship systems, we better be doing that because there needs to be a way to make the world a better place. Not just self-serving our ego or because we want to do something different, right? That's the difference. And that's the reason why I wanted to make this video. If you're interested in some of the traditional research or of any of the people that I've worked with, there is the chapter in my original book, or you can reach out to me and I'll send you that information, or some of the old videos that were done and that document how helpful this research was to crafting system structures, government policies, and changing the world for the next generation. Probably so that we could be having this conversation. We've probably changed it so much that now we're having the conversation about non-traditional relationship dynamics, which is great and exciting. But we do need to understand, as with everything, where did the original research come from and why was it important? So thank you for listening. I hope it's helpful, and I'll see you later. Ciao.